We tend to think of history as something that's written down in books, right? But what if the real story of humanity, our biggest triumphs, our deepest beliefs, what if all that could be told through the silent objects we've left behind? Let's dive into this incredible idea that history isn't just written, it's crafted, it's carved, and it's built.
This quote from Archie Grant it absolutely nails it. There really is something magical about it. These artifacts, they're like tangible messages sent through time. They're not just old things sitting in a museum. They are a direct, physical link to the people who made and used them, bridging that enormous gulf of years.
Okay, so take a look at this. It's absolutely stunning, right? But if we look past its beauty, what stories is it hiding? Well, the gold, that screams wealth and long-distance trade. The sheer craftsmanship tells us about incredible skill. And the bull itself, that hints at some really powerful religious or cultural ideas. See, every single detail is a clue, and it turns us into historical detectives.
So where do we start our little investigation? You might think with something grand like that golden bull. But nope. We're going to start with the most humble material you can imagine, stone. Because the story of a simple stone tool is actually the story of humanity's first and maybe greatest superpower, innovation.
And we're talking about a stretch of time that is it's mind-boggling, millions of years. For our distant ancestors, day-to-day survival literally depended on their ability to shape the world around them, and they started with nothing more than a rock.
And here it is. For over 1,000,000 years, this was the Swiss Army knife of the prehistoric world. But it is so much more than just a sharp rock. This represents a massive cognitive leap. I mean, think about what it takes to make one. You have to look at a raw piece of flint and see a future tool inside it. That's abstract thought. You have to plan every single strike to shape it just right. And crucially, that skill had to be taught and passed down, generation after generation. This simple object is proof of planning, teaching, and culture.
And now, let's watch how that idea evolved. On the left, you've got that classic all-purpose hand axe. But check out what's on the right. As human challenges got more complex, so did the tools. We see this big shift from a one-size-fits-all solution to highly specialized tech. You've got the Clovis point, designed specifically for hunting massive prey like mammoths, and the barbed harpoon, perfect for snagging fish out of the water. Each one is a targeted solution to a very specific problem.
This timeline just lays it all out so clearly. You can see how our technological progress started to accelerate. I mean, the first steps took millions of years. But then, as the climate changed after the last ice age and farming started to emerge, innovation just exploded. These tools don't just tell us what our ancestors did, they tell us how they adapted to a world that was changing fast.
But humans don't just survive, do we? We wonder, we believe, we create meaning. So let's pivot a little bit. Let's shift from objects made for the hand to objects that speak to the soul, the ones that give us a few hints about the rich inner lives of our ancestors.
And this is the great challenge, isn't it? With not a single word written down, how on earth can we know what they thought, what they believed in? It feels like this profound mystery. But just like with the tools, the objects themselves are our best clues. You could say they're the only text we have from this incredibly deep past.
So meet the Venus figurines. They've been found all across Ice Age Europe, over vast distances, and they're all small, portable, and share these really similar features. So what were they? Fertility charms? Images of a goddess? Ancestor figures? Honestly, we don't know for sure. But the fact that they exist at all tells us that early humans were already thinking symbolically and were probably engaging in some kind of ritual. This slide is just a perfect illustration of how belief could be expressed in different ways. On the left, you've got the personal, portable Venus figurine, something you might carry with you. But on the right, that's a plastered skull from one of the world's very first towns. This was a communal act. It was about keeping the dead as a visible part of the community, which suggests a really powerful kind of ancestor veneration.
So when we start to put all of these object clues together, a picture starts to emerge. It's a picture of people who are trying to make sense of their world, their place in it, and maybe even what happens after death. These artifacts, they're like the fossilized evidence of the earliest human beliefs.
Okay, so let's take everything we've been talking about, the skill of reading objects, and apply it to one of history's greatest puzzles, a massive, sophisticated civilization that just vanished, leaving behind a script we still can't read today.
Welcome to Mohenjo-Daro. It's this meticulously planned city from about 4,500 years ago in what's now Pakistan. And this wasn't some tiny village, this was a sprawling urban center. But without being able to read their words, how could we possibly understand how a society this complex worked? Well, you guessed it. The answer, once again, is in the objects.
All right, our first clue. This tiny but incredibly powerful figure, nicknamed the Priest King. I mean, that formal, calm expression definitely suggests authority, doesn't it? But was it divine authority, like a priest, or was it political power, like a king? This one small object opens up a huge question about how this entire society was governed.
Now for clue number 2. And I know what you're thinking. A bunch of stone cubes. Kind of boring, right? No, these things are absolutely revolutionary. Finding identical sets of these precise weights across hundreds of miles tells us this wasn't just some loose collection of towns. It points to a society built on trust and regulation, a fully integrated economic system, probably controlled by a central authority.
And our final clue is this tiny seal, maybe used to stamp goods for trade. But look closely at the figure on it. It's a meditating, three-faced deity, and he's surrounded by animals. It's an image that many scholars believe could be an early ancestor of the Hindu god Shiva. Just think about that. This one little object could potentially connect this ancient civilization to a belief system that's still practiced by over 1 billion people today.
So when we put all the evidence together, we can pretty much solve the case. The planned cities point to a strong central government, the priest king hints at a social hierarchy, the weights reveal a complex, organized economy, and the seals give us this incredible window into their religion. We've essentially decoded the basics of a lost civilization, all without reading a single word they wrote.
And just try to get your head around the scale of this place. Mohenjo-Daro was home to maybe 100,000 people. A massive, orderly city, all functioning with a level of organization we've been able to reconstruct piece by piece just from the things they left behind. It's incredible. You know, seeing how we can reconstruct a city of 100,000 people from just a few objects, it brings us right back to our big idea. We've seen how a simple stone, a little statue, and the ruins of a city can tell these epic stories. So what does this all mean for how we see the world, and even our own place in history? Ultimately, what this shows us is that history is literally everywhere. It's not just locked away in some dusty old book. It's in the design of the chair you're sitting on, the technology inside your phone, the clothes you're wearing. Every single human-made object is a data point, a tiny piece of the epic story of who we are.
And that leaves us with one final thought. If an archaeologist in the distant future were to find just one thing from your life, a tool, a favorite book, maybe even a corrupted digital file, what would it say about you? What would it say about the world that you lived in? What story would it tell?